Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing,
Ottoman
no
music.
filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter. You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music. Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing,
Ottoman
no
music.
filter.
Ottoman music. Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music. Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into People in the Ring. All boxing,
Ottoman
no
music.
filter.
Well, welcome to another edition of Beer, Boxing, and Quarantine. It's me, your host, Dave Duenas, with my co-host, Johnny Zig. Hey, happy Easter, everybody. I hope everybody had a good Easter and stuff. How about you, Johnny? How was your Easter, bro?
Excellent, man. Happy Easter to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. And cheers. And like I told you guys last week,
Cheers.
Gendan, which means 100 years of happiness in Italian. Salute, everybody. Sip it back.
Yeah, we had a good. I had a good Easter, man. I ended up deciding getting up, and I prepped up some a big slab of brisk. Let it, slow cook on the grill. Just kept it there and watched a few old classic movies and watched a couple of classic fights. One of my all-time favorites, man, is by Steve Martin, The Jerk. dude, I could watch that film over and over and over again.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's one of the greatest classic comedies of all time. Steve Martin
Yep.
in his prime.
It,
Oh man, that movie's ridiculous.
It is, dude, because it reminds you of the times of when they had to be really clever to make you laugh. When they didn't just have to put in the cheap FUs and a-holes in the joke, they actually had to come up with something, a scenario and a real story to actually make it funny. And like, just one of my favorite is when he finds out what his purpose, his purpose is for, and he writes that letter to his family. That was a classic,
Unbelievable. The gas station scene, just so many memorable
he
moments.
hates these cans. No, that was great.
A tremendous comedy.
I try to show
And
my
also
kids. I try to show my kids that movie, and they're just like sitting there, like, and some of the parts they laughed, but most of it they didn't, because it is a different type of genre of comedy. It's like really clever. You kind of sometimes sit there and kind of think about it. I mean, actually, you shouldn't really think about it. It's the jerk. I mean, he just plays in a moron, which a lot of Americans nowadays should actually relate to, because a lot of us are morons in a lot of things that we do, including what Terrence Crawford is saying on Boxing Scene, saying that this is a conspiracy. But he's not the only one. He's not the only one that I've spoken to that says that this whole COVID-19 is a conspiracy. We're seeing a lot of folks out there that are, getting out there just for clicks. Are you starting to witness that? There's people actually going out, and this millennium generation are going out and coughing on people, and then they're scratching their heads like, why am I getting arrested? What's going on? I didn't really think this was this serious. And they're being charged with felonies, I mean, it's not a laughing matter, but I sit back and I go, dude, this is where we're at as a society now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think everyone's out there, in a lot of ways feeling like they need something to do, or they're getting restless, and they might say things that are crazy because all we have is time on our hands. And what happens when you have time on your hands? You dwell. Now, I'm not saying what Terrence offered. I don't agree with that. I'm just going to be blunt. I don't agree with what he's thinking and what people are doing in terms of like coughing on people and acting the fool. Unfortunately, I always say this, and I really feel strong about this, is that during times of adversity, and this is why I love boxing so much, you see really true characteristics of somebody. If you're dealing with, what we went through with 9/11 terrorist attacks and now this coronavirus or other things throughout the course of time, or like when you see someone pass away that you love, you really see the true characteristics of people. And unfortunately, we're going to see some really good qualities and really bad qualities in the human condition.
Speaking about boxing, the personalities in boxing, even in not just the fighters and not just the media, but the fans themselves, there is no in between. They're either going to be really likable or they're not. Going back with Terrence Crawford, I think he has every right to believe whatever he wants. The power to be, though, is that there are the young generation of fight fans that are barely kind of following the sport and barely following because maybe you turned him into a fan. Maybe you're from Nebraska and he caught your imagination and making you feel like a champ. Kind of throwing out this information, and I think that's where people are kind of they're not being understanding is this. Here's this, okay? Go up to any random person and say a mama's joke or speak about their old lady and look how offensive that person would immediately turn. It's kind of the same way when you're saying this is a hoax and I don't believe in this and blah, blah, blah. It's like common flu and that with somebody you may not know at the moment, but that other person might have had a friend or a relative or a parent or a grandparent that got affected and has passed away from this, okay, or going through a hard time through this, and that's what I'm saying, like, at this time, I mean, look, jokes are going to come, but they got to come at the right time. We've made some jokes on leaving the ring, because we've tried to enlighten the mood, but when you're just really kind of spreading out the information, like, well, I don't believe it and you shouldn't believe it. I think that's when you're kind of stepping out of your bubble, is what I would say, your bubble of what information You're not a scientist. You're not in the fronts. You're not there dealing with this. on an everyday and being at a high risk. So speaking about that, hey, salute to all the responders out there that are out there on the war front and fighting this coronavirus and making sure that they're trying to contain this and give us always the right information. So salute to you people.
Absolutely. The genuine heroes of this world right now are first responders, people that work in hospitals, police officers, firefighters, and also people that work at the grocery store. Thank you guys for keeping the stores open. Yeah, to let us get our groceries. And I know a lot of grocery stores and, businesses of that type are actually giving people, their employees, raises, which is very important because these people are really putting their lives at risk to work every day. So again, another salute. We're going to do a whole lot of cheers and Gendon over here, everybody.
You, man. But yeah, bro, no, definitely. I know in my grocery store, they already put that like bullet, that bullet screen, that plexiglass and stuff. So you can't really speak to them. I don't know why, but I have the urge the next time I go to the grocery store to go like lean over, like straight into that plexiglass, Johnny, and just go, "I'll be back," and then walk away.
Don't do it. You might get arrested.
I know. I might get arrested. I wasn't even coughing on anybody. I was just reciting Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator, sizing up the plexiglass. I'll be back. Be back for my beer, that is. Speaking about beer, I had to get stuck with this beer. It was on sale. And because, what's going on, the whole shutdown and everybody's working, I got to be conservative with my beer. I can't go and buy the high-end beer that I normally like to have. But, hey, what fights are we going to have on here tonight here, Johnny?
Well, I'd like to start with Lennox Lewis versus Vitaly Klitschko. Man, what a barn burner heavyweight fight this was. Both guys weighed in well over 200 pounds, sized up actually for about over 500 pounds combined. Ooh. Lennox Lewis standing at 6'5", and Vitaly Klitschko is 6'7", and Vitaly, and Lennox both took the fight on 2 weeks' notice because Lennox had an original opponent. I believe it was in Kurt Johnson scheduled. And props to Lennox getting in. And, let's talk about this one, man. This was one of the greatest heavyweight fights I've ever seen. If that's a bold statement, I don't care. I think it's amazing.
I would have to I would have to be right there with you saying that it was one of the top 10 heavyweights fights to be seen. Because here's the thing is that when this fight happened, it really was at a time of heavyweights low. And this was actually when Lennox was really already kind of trickling out of the division. He was getting old, getting older. There wasn't really a whole lot more to accomplish for himself. And, taking on a dangerous big Vitaly Klitschko was something to be seen. And it definitely left a lot of us, salivating and hoping. Because I remember watching this at my Uncle Louis' house in San Jose in the east side. And I remember, like, my Uncle Louis didn't know a whole lot about Vitaly Klitschko. And I was really high on Vitaly. I was like, man, this guy is something there to see. I thought he was much more ruthless. I still stand by this. I think that he was far more ruthless, with than Vladimir Klitschko.
Oh, there's no doubt. I believe hindsight being 2020, and we're not going to give any spoilers about what happens here.
No,
if you guys have never seen this before, we're not going to give any spoilers. But I agree that Vitaly is definitely the tougher of the two Klitschko brothers, and we'll talk more about that later. But this is one hell of a fight. My
What's
goodness.
up, Troy Williams? How you doing, brother? Happy Easter. Thanks for joining us here on Beer Boxing Quarantine on Leaving the Ring. First round up, they're both filling each other out with a lazy jab, Lennox Lewis and Vitaly Klitschko. But immediately, Lennox wanted to let him know that you have entered the castle with the king by throwing a straight overhand right.
His signature punch, in my opinion, outside of the jab, obviously, Lennox had a great jab as always. But what sets up the right hand is the jab. And what I see in this round, and I remember watching this, is that the two of them, for Lennox, he's never fought anyone, to my knowledge, this tall or taller than him.
Well, he had Michael Grant. He fought Michael Grant before that.
Michael Grant.
And he destroyed him within 2 rounds. But here's the thing is that he had never fought somebody that had similarities in the way they threw punches, because both men threw right hands almost identical. Both guys had a very strong jab. But the thing between him and Michael Grant, the difference between him and Michael Grant was between Vitaly Klitschko and Grant was that Vitaly had a lot of experience in the ring.
True, and he stood his height. He didn't lean too much. I mean, when you watch Vitaly shoot a jab, you could definitely see that he leans and tries to get the torque to follow up with the right hand. But, you know, he definitely fought his height. And I think that's what gave Lennox trouble in this fight here, in this first round in particular. You can see it's going to be a tough fight for Lennox.
You know, and Lennox was not the most likable guy here in the States, man. I remember, like, a lot of my friends didn't care for him. They, you know, when the announcement of him, Mike Tyson, when they finally decided to step in, you know, a lot of guys were still in belief that Mike can pull it off. When I was one of them, like, dude, Mike is done and over with. He is overcooked. He's ready to go. This is actually the perfect time for Lennox Lewis to give Mike Tyson a very tame beatdown. And he did. You know, so, again, Vitaly was not a very known fighter here in the States because he was you know, Ukrainian and overseas UK fighter. So, or European fighter, you know, to say. He was a European fighter, and Americans at that time didn't really care for the European fighters. You know, if anything, they tuned in to see if Lennox Lewis was going to be starched across the canvas the way Rockman did to him, you know, in the last fight, which made it a great comeback revenge fight in their rematch. But other than that, nobody in the States didn't appreciate him until he finally retired and started becoming part of the HBO commentary team.
I think it was Emmanuel Stewart that said it best about Lennox Lewis, is that, you know, a lot of people had a hard time identifying with Lennox because, you know, he was a world fighter. And I think that's great because in boxing, you're a world champion. Lennox originally, you know, from Jamaica, moved to Canada, you know, right. London, America, he was all over. And, you know, I think that's great that he's got so much culture in him. And I always appreciated him. But he's definitely one of those fighters in Lennox Lewis that when he was gone, boy, did I miss him, especially after this fight. What a great fight this is. I mean, both these guys are so physical, and the taxing, you know, just the wrestling in it itself is so taxing. I mean, can you imagine being in there with people this physically strong and having to box them and do all that inside? Oh, man.
I don't know, man. That kind of
Troy Williams, happy Easter, bro. What happened was, what's going on?
Oh, nothing. Keep going, man. I'm just having some fun over here.
Well, we like fun. I leave it in the ring, and we appreciate you all joining us.
Well, the last time we did this, we kind of walked off of the show a little bit buzzed. Hopefully, we can keep it up to the same energy. Let me bring this up here. This, to me, was really, it would have to be one of the top 5 fights for Lennox Lewis and really showing how much of heart that he had. Because a lot of folks question his durability and his heart. Because, like you mentioned, he wasn't used to fighting guys his height. Wasn't really used to fighting guys eye level. And in this fight, you saw that he had to kind of adjust. In that first round, his jab looked really awkward. I'm surprised he didn't even hurt his shoulder because his jab kept going up over the top of Vitaly Klitschko. And at times they would collide. You know, both big bodies would collide when stepping in with at the same time when they were throwing their body rams at each other. And they would just collide. So it was really up to Lennox trying to figure out what other things he could do with Vitaly Klitschko. And Vitaly didn't let up, man. I mean, you just see him right there. He keeps throwing his jab, and he bends his knees a bit so that he could jab underneath Lennox, which is a very beautiful veteran move. It's to catch him underneath the armpit to really kind of soar up that left arm so he doesn't lift it up as much.
Well, you know, you hit the nail on the head. Veteran moves, happening regularly here, especially with the inside fighting. And for two big men to fight like this, you know, with very long arms, and you see a lot of grappling, so they're going to tangle up like this. But you're also seeing some clean shots, like Vitaly just landed on Lennox. And David, how do you have this fight scored, for the first round? Who did you give the first round to?
You know what? I would have to go with honestly. I thought Lennox did a little bit more. He was more to me. He was the initiative in the round. But right now, I would have to say right now, Batelli's taking a little bit control. But still, this is a Lennox Lewis's fight. He's the one that's actually, in my opinion, making Vitelli fight a little bit more by slowly taking these half steps forward.
I gave the first round to Klitschko. I think just on aggression alone, and he definitely got to Lennox. Now, it could be because maybe at the time I watched the fight and watching it right now is that I feel like Klitschko definitely overachieved in round one, setting the tempo and dictating a certain pace that we get from this fight.
I like what he's doing here in the second round because even though Lennox is the one that's trying to push him back and he's forcing Vitelli to unload early, Vitelli's the one that's landing these bigger, cleaner shots. But Lennox continued to land, here and there a right hand, but it's not flush. If you watch it, it's not really flush. Where Vitelli's right there just unloading on Lennox, and he's landing some big, hellacious shots. And you could tell that's more on the glove, where Lennox's is more off of the top of the glove. So it keeps sliding off his face. Vitelli's is just flush, completely flush on him.
Vitelli is definitely, at this point in this fight, in my opinion, the better inside fighter, and you can see Lennox trying to adapt to that. Lennox is definitely trying to figure it out because we always know that Lennox is a range fighter, man. He fights you at a distance, and he works off his jab because of his long arms and his size. But in this fight, again, he's outsized, and for the first time against an opponent that has tremendous skill.
I just remember watching
Vitelli
this fight. On the second round, everybody's already on the edge of their couch or their seat or wherever they're doing. And honestly, there wasn't cheers, but there was a lot of gas, and there was a lot of we couldn't believe what was happening in front of our eyes because, like I said, Vitaly Klitschko wasn't a very known fighter to the casual or, regular household HBO subscriber fans. To the hardcore fight fans like myself that were buying KO, magazine and Ring magazine, and we would see them, we'd see articles about the brothers, Vitelli and Latimer. We knew a lot about him. We understood. Remember this, Vitaly Klitschko was a guy that also was in question about his heart. Could he dig deep? Because he did fall apart after having a shoulder injury against Chris Bird. And there he goes, man. I mean, that just shows you right there, that he was determined. I mean, he was a guy possessed of really trying to dethrone Lennox Lewis.
Do you remember before the fight with the Klitschko brothers, they ran a promo on HBO because the fight was done on such short notice that they were like, "Hi, I'm Vladimir Klitschko. Hi, I'm Vitaly Klitschko. I am the one that's fighting Lennox Lewis." And then Vladimir was like, "I'm the one that's not fighting Lennox Lewis," because you're absolutely correct. Nobody knew who Vitaly really was. I'm not going to say nobody, but, the point that you were saying, in America, he was best known for the guy that fought Chris Bird and oddly quit in that fight.
Oh, beautiful right hand. Just landed.
But then we see him do this in this monster of an event at Staples Center, and the crowd was so into it, and HBO at its, I'm going to say, height of broadcasting, you got so many great people on the call, George Foreman, Larry Merchant, Jim Lampley, and this is when they were calling fights the way they were supposed to call them. Purism, of course, Harold Letterman as well.
And this is really, honestly, just big guys with some high-level skills, but at the same time had to throw some of those skills out the door so that they could be a bit gritty against each other because they knew that just having high skill level to defeat each other was not going to work and happen that night. Lennox Lewis was training for another guy, like you mentioned. So this was here something that he had to adjust to on the fly and quick. And there you go. The eye of Vitaly Klitschko is the first thing that we noticed as a fight fan during this fight happening, that this was going to be something really that was going to either up the action and violence, or we were going to end up being not satisfied because the ref or the ring doctor could have stopped that fight immediately. So everybody was like, oh shit, here's the eye, here we go.
Well, George Foreman said it right away that this cut was going to be a problem, and anyone could see that. You know what I mean? And the thing is that Lennox definitely hit him with a hard right hand, hit Klitschko with a hard right hand.
Yeah, he did.
And then the skin opened up, and then he'd hit him again, and right away. And Lennox was an absolute shark in this fight because he kept going after that smartly. And you know, that is definitely a game changer that we're seeing right now with Klitschko dealing with this adversity. And, you know, Klitschko is still fighting hard. Lennox working a lot harder than I think he wanted to and perhaps expected.
Ooh,
and
look at
this
that
is just
eye,
one hell
man.
of a fight. Yeah.
That eye is just bad, dude.
That's one of the worst cuts I've ever seen in the history of anything. And it gets so bad that I think the blood had no other place to go when they coagulate it, that it actually opens up underneath his eye and just bursts like a zit or a pimple. It's crazy. Like, you could see it actually, the skin, if you look underneath Vitelli's left eye in between rounds here, it looks like he's already starting to open up underneath there. And that also opens up. And it's just amazing that moving forward in his career, again, no spoilers about this fight in particular, I don't ever think that eye was an issue again. I think that's remarkable because, I mean, you can see guys listening.
That's what started right there, you know. That was a beautiful right hand thrown by Lennox Lewis, bro. It was just nicely measured, and you know, timing was perfect, and that's what made Vitelli really just grab onto him and hold him, because it didn't just cut him open, but it rocked him enough.
Look how he set that up too when you see that replay that you were just referring to. And Lennox might have learned a thing or two from Holyfield, my boy, is that if you look, Lennox holds him and kind of smears his face and ears and hair on the area that was affected. And that's a great professional, again, savvy move. This is a savvy ass fight.
This is the thing where Lennox was really known for, which was putting his big size on a guy's back. And he was trying to do that with Vitelli, and Vitelli goes down. And they're just opening up right now. They're just opening up. But going back with that, Vitelli decided not to try to fight him off, which would kind of tire out his legs. He decided just to go down. You know, some folks might have thought it's fatigue, but I tend to believe that it was just ring smart. He understood that, you know what, he's going to try to put his weight. He's going to try to, gas out my legs, which is going to cost me in the late rounds if this keeps going. So I'm just going to go with the momentum and fall straight down to my buttocks. And then immediately getting up, he decided to open up with Lennox, and that was his way of telling them, like, I'm not tired, dude. I'm ready to continue to go on with you.
This is Lennox at his, you mentioned Michael Grant before. Remember when he finished off Michael Grant, he had his arm around him and he uppercutted him, and, every fighter's got a
example
tactic.
of what I'm saying. He had a habit of putting his body right over you. And Michael Grant, instead of Michael Grant going down to a knee, he tried to lift his weight back up, try to show him that he's got strength as well. And a lot of times you don't want to do that because you weaken the legs.
There is no doubt, and Klitschko, he's just a fighter, man. Like, deep down, like, this is just a street fight that's organized, mayhem in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of skill involved, but there's also a lot of balls and grit and just savviness, and you could see the experience these guys have. Like, if you deal with adversity like Klitschko's dealing with right now with that cut and find a way to fight through and look good, man.
I tell you what hurt them, I think, in a lot of ways. Vitaly Klitschko later on retired, but his brother reigned for a decade, Vladimir Klitschko. I was watching Creed today earlier, Creed 2. Where Apollo Creed's son gets in the ring with Ivan Drago's son, right? And the Dragos are just these vicious Russian, Ukrainian machines, right? And which I got to tell you, I got to be honest with you, I thought the Creed series sucked, dude. Not a fan of the Creed series at all, okay? Really tough to kind of just get through the whole movie. But going back off of that, because of their size and because of where they were from, a lot of Americans expected these guys to be, because they were robotic in terms of the way they moved. You know, they were athletic, but there was some robotic movements out of their style and their skill. But they didn't have that mean streak. And I mean, Vitelli did, but it only came out in the ring, and that's where it counted. But folks wanted to have that trash talking guy, if he lives, he lives, and that type of a deal. And they just couldn't produce that. That wasn't them. They were very humane people, both doctors. Vitaly Klitschko goes on becoming a government official of his country, his homeland, Ukraine. You know, and his brother, also another, just a really good guy. I remember meeting Vitaly, covering the fight when he got in with Kristen Oriella, and just really nice guy, man. It was like a gentle giant, like really a gentle giant.
They're very intelligent people. They speak multiple languages. They got nothing but class, but you know, they're competitors. They got a lot of fire in them, and that's why I respect the Klitschko so much. And yes, you know, sometimes people refer to the heavyweight era before the Deontay Wilders and Tyson Furies came in and Anthony Joshua's came into the world as the boring phase, but we got to respect the knockout percentages of the Klitschkos.
Oh,
and,
dude, yeah. I mean,
you know, at the heart of Vitaly, like you hit the nail on the head, dude. He's rough dude.
And right now, these guys are really showing each other how solid of a chin they both have. And Lennox proves that when conditioned, he can hold up to some pretty big shots, because Vitaly has landed some big shots, uppercuts. Both men have kind of landed some really nasty uppercuts, put their heads up. They bob their heads up to the top of the arena lights.
They are going hard here. Lennox with the body shots over and over again. Uppercuts being landed by both guys. A lot of physicality. Hand. Yeah. And I got to say this, man, you know, like the bottom line is that this is just a ridiculous, you know, highly contested fight on many levels, whether it's skill or just fighting in general. And you hit the nail on the head, David, when you said that Lennox took punches in this fight. I think the 2 times he got stopped with Oliver McCall, the one time, and then Hasim Rahman, he didn't see those punches coming. And this might sound crazy, but luckily enough, Vitaly's so big, you could see the shots coming. Now, they suck to get hit with, I'm sure, but at least he could see them, I think, a little bit better. Because he's taken tremendous punishment and still showing resolve. I can't believe the amount of punishment Lennox took in this fight. It's unreal. Even Vitaly, too, we got to say that as well. And again, like there's Lennox doing that inside roughing up. And it's all good. It's a fight, man. And if you get away with it. But right there, I don't know if you saw that, David, on your version, Lennox, when he gets on the inside, he's able to use his head a little bit and just kind of muck up that cut a little bit more. And it's a savvy move. This is a very savvy fight. I keep using that word, but that's what it is. It's all about experience here.
Going back off what I was saying about Creed, you know, Creed 2, listen. I remember when it came out, I was super excited. But I think Creed 2, what it lacked was the story. I thought that they could have kind of taken a deep dive with Drago. And what happened to him? You know, why was he exiled? What happened after he got exiled? Why was his son so pissed off, you know? I thought they could have done a lot better job in the storytelling of what they, you know, of how they did it. You know, even the fight scenes were just really terrible. It was like, shit, dude. You know, as much as Sylvester Stallone watches fights, go to fights, you think the overall, I mean, you're bringing in Michael Buffer. You're bringing in Max Kellerman, Jim Lampley. You're using real live footages of a fight that's happening in overseas at the UK. You would think they would put a little bit more time in choreographing these fights and making them look a little bit more realistic, but at the same time making the story just a little bit more meaty. I thought they really missed the mark on having the opportunity of building the character of Drago, of making him separate of his dad. You know, here's a guy that was trying to wipe the disgrace that his dad had left in the fight with Rocky, but they didn't do that. I just thought that everything was kind of like bum rushed. That all of a sudden, here we were.
I got thoughts on it, and by the way, guys, what we saw in between rounds here with this fight is that Klitschko's eye is just an absolute mess. It's just so bad.
Like a Togo sandwich right now.
How much exactly, bro?
Like
how much
meatball Togo sandwich,
dude?
Just,
that must have been so painful.
Yeah.
Jesus, wow. You just watch it. I mean, I remember this fight very vividly, but geez, man, just watching this again, it's like this eye is crazy.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Dude, and Lennox Lewis' face just holds up really well, dude. I mean, because there goes Vitelli right now, just landing big shots, and Lennox right there, just coming forward, working that right eye.
Absolutely, he keeps just going right after Klitschko's eye, whether it's on the inside exchanges or from the distance, or just like roughhousing, like holding and smearing his face and putting those dreadlocks on him or whatever. Yeah, man.
Oh, beautiful
that was
right
a big
uppercut
shot
from Lennox Lewis, and that's the punch that he was looking for the last 2 rounds, just looking to land that. And right there, you can see Vitelli, dude. At that moment, he could have really kind of like taken a knee and rest up, but he held on and let the ref do his job. And there he goes. He's tying him up. And this is really, I think this is the round where he just really started, holding on to Lennox so he can catch his breath just a bit.
This was the absolute game changer, in my opinion, of this fight. To where the direction's headed here, we see that Klitschko definitely got hit with one of the most massive uppercuts. Can you imagine, like, anyone taking that shot? Actually, I hate to sound overly dramatic here, that would murder most people, man. Like, that was a resounding bomb, and he didn't see it. It came underneath. The uppercut is one of the worst shots you could get hit with in boxing. At this
Especially
point,
when
David,
you're gasping for air because you're leaving your jaw vulnerable to get broken.
Right. At this point, I'm going to break down my scoring at the round we're at right now. First round I gave to Klitschko, 10-9. Second round, 10-9 Klitschko. Lennox Lewis took the third round, in my opinion, 10-9. We're in the fourth round. I felt that Klitschko turned it back around, took it 10-9. The fifth round, I had it 10-9. So for Lennox Lewis, so this is where we're at in this amazing, amazing brawl here.
What round is this?
I believe this is the sixth round. That's what it looks like here.
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see the fight anymore? Can you hear me?
No, I can hear. I can't see the round.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Just wanted to make sure we're all good. I had some tech issues as well, but thank you guys for hanging in there if you couldn't hear me a moment ago, but here we are. We're good, I think.
There goes that uppercut again from Lennox Lewis, man. And, this is when he really starts roughhousing, Vitelli, because he felt like I got the better of him. I've hurt his eye. I'm going to start, working him as best I can. But, too, you could see Lennox, dude, you got to be exhausted. Like, how many, close to 500 pounds? Jesus.
It's that Kronk Jim in Lennox too that brought out the dog, and he'll use it. This is why I love Lennox so much. He's got so many facets of the game. He could box. He could play that chess game with you. He could take you in that street fight as we saw here. And that's compliments of Emmanuel Stewart. And we saw how
it's
over
been
the
called
years
off at the 7th round. It's called off, and there goes Vitelli. Look, Vitelli was pissed, dude. Vitelli thought, like, look, I'm in this fight. I'm still fighting. But I don't know about you, but I seeing it now, when I saw it live, I didn't think it was the right call. I was kind of pissed, because I felt like, holy shit, somebody was bound to get dropped and beaten. And Vitelli, I think that felt like, look, I still got a lot left. What's up, D-Style? How you doing, brother?
What's up, D-Style? And I totally agree. Like, I mean, the eye is so terrible that it definitely warrants a stoppage. It mandates it kind of. But Klitschko had so much heart, and you see how passionate he is right here when he's walking around the ring saying, no, and he wants the fight to continue. But, yeah, man, at the end of the day, it's It's a win for Lennox Lewis by way of stoppage from a very bad cut. God only knows what would happen if we went to the 7th round and 8th round after this. At the point of the time of the stoppage, I had to fight even 3 rounds to 3 rounds. Lewis and Klitschko, even. What about you, David?
I thought Vitelli. Honestly, I thought it was a draw, man. I thought both guys were doing a lot of work to each other. I thought both guys, had their moments, had their times of controlling the fight. D-Style, it was a good stoppage, but I felt for Vitelli. I felt the same way. I thought the momentum was slowly just working for Vitelli because, I think Vitelli felt, look, I'm taking his best shots, and he knew eventually what one of these guys were going to have to go out on their backs, and it's that, you always hear fighters go, you got to take me out on a stretcher. That night, I think Vitelli really showed you didn't take me out on a stretcher because he was willing to really just lose that eye for that win. And right there, I mean, he stole the moment. Everybody, I mean, even in my household that day, everybody felt that Vitelli won that fight, and they really thought that he was actually leading up a beating Lennox Lewis in a very, very more brutal fashion. Because think about this: when Lennox has been knocked out in previous fights, in his last 2 fights, when he was knocked out, where he was caught. He wasn't beaten down. Here, you got to admit, Vitelli was giving him a good serve to him. He had an answer for every big punch Lennox Lewis threw at him. He answered it.
Oh, there is no doubt. And it was a hard fight. And, I love Klitschko's passion afterwards where he's like, no, why did you stop this? And his brother's in there trying to help him out. And again, for Lennox Lewis, like I had said earlier, it's great resolve that we saw in him as well because, we had seen him in the Oliver McCall fight. We had seen him in the first fight with Hasim Rahman get dropped. And in this fight, he took tremendous punishment. And this was just a great, great fight and a great testament to Emmanuel Stewart and Kronk Jim. We saw something similar with Emmanuel Stewart's brain trust, being passed down over the ages. We saw with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder recently with, being a little bit rough, knowing how to adapt and, game plan. These guys had game plans. And even though Lennox Lewis only had 2 weeks to prepare, he showed adaptability. And that's what got him the win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that Tyson Fury is a lot different what Lennox had to face here because he was dominant against Wilder in their rematch. It was just a dominant performance. It was a Kronk performance. This was a Kronk performance against Vitelli Klitschko, but this was a Kronk performance where they had to dig deep, in which they do in sparring. If you watch tapes, I got a lot of tapes of like even Roy Jones visiting the Kronk gym and sparring. These guys were always put to the test. There was no half-stepping in what they were doing. Like there was no celebrity check. They definitely were there to fight, and to really prove, hey, this is this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm going to do.
I could not agree more, man. They're so notable at Kronk for sparring and just in general training champions. And you're absolutely correct in that regard. So it looks like we're going to move on to Vernon Forrest versus Ricardo Mayorga, part 1, I believe, right?
Yep. And here you go with Ricardo Mayorga from Nicaragua, a very unknown fighter, best known for his. I think it was a draw with Andrew Sixhead Lewis the first fight. Then in the second one, boom. I mean, he just put Andrew Sixhead Lewis to sleep.
I think what a lot of people know him for is what we're doing right now, drinking beer. Remember, he'd always crack the beer, have a cigarette after the fight, and a lot of people like that. They related to it. They're like, okay, here's a fighter that's winning world championships and looking the part, but he's a blue-collared guy. He's a guy who likes to drink beer and have cigarettes. So I think that's what intrigued a lot of people to him as well with Ricardo Mayorga.
Yeah, D style. I think Lacey's on the wrist cut. Vitelli thoughts. I think so too. I think it had some play, but I know that Lennox was landing that big right. It did land flush, where they think that that's what created the cut. But I think that the jab, because they were both jabbing, and really because both men are used to jabbing, at a shorter, a person of short height, they were jabbing each other, and you could see that every time they would jab, it would bounce right off of their shoulders and hit the side of their face. So I think you might be right, Disa. I think it has a lot to do with the cut in the eye of Vitaly Klitschko. But I don't think there's no denying that Lennox did land flush. There was times where he did land that right hand really, really flush.
I think that right hand that we saw in that round where Klitschko got cut, which I believe was in the third round, you could see the glove, like actually there's something called like a glove burn too when you get hit and it just rips your skin. If you don't have enough like moisture on your skin, it could actually rip your skin. Right. And that could have been possible there in that situation. But we know Lennox Lewis to have an amazing right hand, so it's very possible that it was a combination of both or one or the other.
Absolutely, man. Yep, and then we're getting ready to watch the Vernon Forrest, who had just recently had signed a major deal with HBO, beat at the time Ring Magazine, and considering the new Golden Boy Shane Mosley, he defeated him twice, and so he was really kind of coming off a high ride. He was on a major pedestal.
He had just signed a 6-fight deal with HBO to start this fight, coming in at 35-0 to Mayorga's 23-3-1 at 147 pounds welterweight, and I believe it was in California, if I'm not mistaken. And absolutely, man, like this guy had so much going on and did a lot, accomplished a lot. I actually saw Forrest knock down Sugar Shane Mosley a lot at Madison Square Garden in New York City, and that was a crazy surprise because they had an amateur background and they had fought before, and it just seemed like Forrest always had his number, as we see in hindsight. But in this fight right here, guys, again, no spoilers. I'm looking forward to watching this with y'all because this is pretty awesome. It's a great fight.
I remember watching this on Lee Avenue. That's where I lived at the time, and my youngest, Elias, was a newborn. And I remember my brother-in-law, one of my brother-in-laws had asked me, like, hey, do you know anything about this guy, Mayorga? And all I remember I remember telling him, like, this guy's a wild guy. He's a wild man. I mean, he's going to go out there and he's not going to win this fight. He's going to probably get knocked out because the best guy that he had faced was Andrew Sixhead Lewis, but which was a spectacular knockout. It was a spectacular win, and he wasn't even supposed to win that fight. Andrew Sixhead Lewis was the more polished, more recognizable name. So I remember saying, dude, just sit down and watch this fight. It's going to be a good fight. At that time, too, like a lot of my good friends, still, they're my good friends. My boy Roger, my boy Ray, and my boy George, they were from Nicaragua. And they were from the Blue Hills as well as from, what's his name? Ricardo Mayorga. And I remember they were excited to see Nick. They didn't know anything about Ricardo. They didn't know anything about him, but they were excited to see one of their own getting a shot at Vernon Forrest.
Oh, this was a great fight going in on paper. I loved it, and I know a lot of people also from that culture that were super excited to watch this fight. And again, I think from any culture because Mayorga is just explosive. He's fun. Win, lose, or draw, he's going to give his best. He'll sit there and eat shots. He'll drop his hands.
He's a man's man, bro.
Yeah, he's a man's man. Exactly. He'll pull you in with the gloves and say, come on, hit me. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, come on and kill me, and Predator type thing.
He was refreshing. You got to admit. He was refreshing to the boxing world, because if you were a guy that were born in the 80s and didn't get a chance to see like a Roberto Duran till later, and you got to remember this, that Roberto Duran when fighting, you got to saw the old version of him in the 80s and the 90s, okay? In the late 80s and early 90s. You didn't really get that true grit, that true grittiness of him, that rawness that he brought to the ring, that he captured so many people's, attention, were, fans, blue collar guys, Latinos related to him, Ricardo was a trash talking guy, way before Fernando Vargas had came around yet. Fernando was still making, I believe he was still coming in the rankings, coming out of the Olympics. Something banter. No, brother, unfortunately, we're not taking calls or anything. We're not filtering through Blog Talk right now, just because it's too late. I didn't think anybody was going to want to call in, man. I apologize. But you can chop it up with us here on the chat room. Let us know what you guys are drinking with us, man. And let us know, too, as well, where you guys were at. Did you watch this fight live, or is this one of the fights that somebody showed you later on after becoming a fight fan?
Speaking of which, David, I think I'm lapping you this time around. Last time you beat me.
He was one of them.
But I'm at number 3 right now, bro. Where you at?
I am at number 2, man. I'm still babysitting.
You got to pick up the pace, my brother.
I gotta
you got to pick up the pace, brother.
Fight. And, man, too bad I don't have a cigar. I wish I had a cigar.
Oh, I'd love that too, man.
Lamas, no, man. Oh, yeah, you're right. Vernon Forrest was one of them. And it could have been, I think you're right, Al Heyman's first client in boxing.
Wow.
D-Style's being crazy. He's drinking H2O. You can OD on that stuff too, bro. Don't you can fill up your lungs. Be careful.
But going back to Mayorga and his explosive personality, I think a lot of people related to, like you said, the blue collaredness. It didn't matter, where you came from. It's everyone liked the beer drinking, cigarette smoking, pounding the chest, waving you in, taking shots, off the grill and standing there.
I'm going to tell you what I didn't like. Yeah. And I remember, I've always said this. If you've listened to Leave the Ring for years, I've always said, I always get worried when I, it's like a Tecate light. No shit. This is actually like water too, man. I can have a bunch of these Tecates, and sometimes it takes me a while to even catch a little buzz. But okay, going back, what I was saying. When I saw Vernon Forrest, I don't know what you guys think about this. When I saw Vernon Forrest do with a rapper, dancing with a big smile, dude, I remember looking at my boys and I'm like, bro, he's overlooking this guy. He's too confident. He's not focused on what's going to happen in the ring. He's already cashing that paycheck in his head. I can't hear you, Johnny. I think you muted yourself, brother, by accident.
Oh, there I am. You got me?
I got you, man.
Okay, I'm back. It's like some fighter said it famously, like it's hard, to get up when you're going to bed in silk pajamas or whatever it was. Some people, when the money comes through, it gets really tough for people to get motivated and show up and have that same hunger.
So I won't do the same mistake, which is get up during the fight to grab me another beer or have a pee break. I'll do it during the middle of the rounds here, man. I promise. It's the cardinal rule. I got to follow our own rules. And here we go with the first round here between Vernon Forrest and Ricardo Mayorga, the Matador, which I think I agree with you, D-Style. I never understood why they called him the Matador. He fought like a bull.
Absolutely.
Dude, he fought like Wolverine. If you really think about it, I mean, he was just like swinging at the fences the way sometimes he would throw punches, especially right there. Look at him. No respect for Vernon Forrest. Absolutely none whatsoever in that first seconds of the round.
Attitude. He's got attitude for days, and, he's a real dude. Like, that's why we say blue-collared when we refer to him, is that you see him right here, no respect, like you said, hit the nail on the head. He's coming in aggressively, showing Vernon Forrest zero respect and wants to take his head off. He's coming for an opportunity. And this is what, in my opinion, fighting's all about when you're a real fighter. You come in and you try to make the best of this opportunity, and you don't leave it to chance. You go for it.
I really honestly believe that this, the welterweight Mayorga was probably the best version of him. And then later on, I mean, he did give us some really good fights. but this was the peak. This was like the peak of him. This was the best that was provided. Because later on in his career, he really depended on being an intimidator. And then as soon as everybody figured out that intimidation was really part of his arsenal of tools in his bag, it was really easy to pick him apart.
Well, he's an aggressive fighter, and it's gonna be in front of you when that happens, as we're seeing here. Like, he's gonna be aggressive, and if you allow him to get away with his best tactic, which is aggression and imposing will, you're gonna lose. But if you know how to deal with that, you could beat him. And that's what you see. And a lot of ebb and flow. There's a lot of wavelength to his career, which was a very colorful career. Like, there was a lot of great fights that he was involved in, Mayorga. A lot of thrills.
The only one that really was the top. This is the biggest win for him in his career. He later on went off and just couldn't capture the moment that he was able to capture as a welterweight. Like I said, going Andrew Sixhead Lewis, that was his coming out party. There he goes. There goes Vernon Forrest. And this was really just because of I don't think Vernon dude was like even thinking that Mayorga was just gonna whirlwind on him.
Well, it's the pressure that I think really sent him down again, because he's not ready for this type of fight, or he knew that if someone's going to be one way and prepare for it, it's another thing to deal with it, and that's what he's dealing with here. Is I don't think the shot was completely clean, but it was certainly, anytime a shot lands and someone goes down, I don't care if it hits the shoulder, I don't care if it hits anything that's clean and legal. If you go down off a shot, it's a knockdown, and we could already see the imposing of Mayorga's will on Vernon Forrest in round number 1 here. You got to score it 10-8, guys.
Well, I think too, because Vernon Forrest went in there. Look, that Vernon Forrest and his team, Vernon Forrest, first off, rest in peace. True professional, great champion. You got to admit, him and his team were like, look, what he did to Andrew Sixhead Lewis. Andrew Sixhead Lewis was a good fighter, but he was not technically sound like a Vernon Forrest. He didn't have that jab. He didn't know how to measure. He didn't know how to, fight from the outside. And Vernon Forrest just came off of beating the pound-for-pound guy, Sugar Shane Mosley. So you really got to think, mentally, they thought, this is an easy fight for me. This guy's wild. His footwork is terrible. He fights from an outside range that is very visible. He telegraphed his punches. I shouldn't have a problem with this, because I've dealt with this type of style in the amateurs. You fought guys that were novice, or guys that really honestly were getting by because they were fighting very weak competition, and they were just warm bodies to fill the ring sometimes. And you deal with that as an amateur fighter, and even as coming up in your pro debuts, there's a lot of cushion on your records.
I tell you what, too, Mayorga, before he sent Forrest down on a punch that, like I said, just kind of hit, and if a punch lands and someone goes down, rightfully so, they showed on that replay there in between rounds a beautiful left hook that Mayorga had landed on Vernon Forrest, and he had one hell of a left hook, man.
Well, Vernon Forrest right now, a few seconds back, was trying to take back control, trying to show him, okay, you're now in with the big boys. Here I am, I'm an elite. Now he's not even thinking about measuring his right hand. He's right now just throwing that right hand, and he's trying to land it big, just to make sure that Mayorga is going to be precautious before kind of coming in wild that he was doing in that first round. And you can see that with Mayorga right now. He's got caught, 4 or 5 right hands, and he's now taking a step back, where in that first round, he had no respect for him. Absolutely none. Right now, you start saying, but I love this, man. I think this one revved up the crowd. This is what got everybody going when he starts going like, come on, man, let's do this. And that right there, it left the ring of being a professional fight and automatically became a street fight for a lot of Latinos and blacks, and for anybody who was a fight fan. It became a street fight right there. It became something that we don't rarely get in the ring, which is that moment of we forget that this is an actual professional prize fight. This became a very personal fight between the two.
For Vernon Forrest, he had no choice at all, like in this particular fight, to go to that tactic and get respect back. You got to bully the bully, man. The guy that's stealing your lunch money, you got to get your money back. And that's exactly what Vernon Forrest is trying to do here, and to great success. I think he's having a tremendous round. I like that he's also jabbing and, like, towards the end of the round showing a better boxing look, because he kept, like you said, Mayorga off him. And when you fight a guy with this kind of like bullying style, you got to keep him off of you and get that respect. But Mayorga is always going to shoot those cannons.
Look at the way he walks back, dude.
Yeah.
You see the way Mayorga just walks back? I mean, you want to talk about arrogance and cockiness all put into one. Right there, that moment when he walked, he's just like, "Yeah, boy, I got
Swag.
I took your best shot, took your best rights. I dropped in the first round, or I actually pushed you in that first round. I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone, and that's what they needed against Vernon Forrest. And like I said, I really think that dancing, he was like, having a good time, getting in the ring, he was celebrating a win before he even got that win. That, to me, it affected him in the first round a whole lot. But here in the second round, you saw that he was starting to take back his by standing his ground, and like what you said, was taking the money back from the bully.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when you're this type of person that's very like wearing their heart on their sleeve like Mayorga does, and passionate and emotional, you're going to get very impulsive, acts. You're going to get very random, just moments in time where you're going to see their passion come through, for better or for worse. And that was always the great thing about the gamble that was Mayorga. You never knew what you were going to get, but you also knew at the same time you're going to get someone that's going to come and fight, but still don't know what to expect other than fireworks.
No, absolutely not, man. Hey, guys, I keep forgetting. Don't forget, press the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. Hit that bell so you're notified when we go live, when we do this show, the Beer, Boxing, and Quarantine, and when we do the other shows as well here on Leaving the Ring. Like I said, this show's going to be on Sundays at 10 p.m. I know it's late, but you know what? I figured it might as well be late. I mean, we're on lockdown, a lot of us in quarantine, place in shelter. Try to stay out from the outside. Try to celebrate with us. Have a couple of beers with us. Let's watch some classic fights. If you like what you're watching, but you want to see a particular fight for next week, hey, send us an email or hit us up on direct message. Let us know what you guys want to see next. What fights would you want us to put up? Classic fights. Man, this is a round right here where even in that second round, we're like, okay, the tide is starting to turn, because Vernon started to land that right hand, and now Vernon was pissed. It was like, okay, things are going to change. But, dude, I mean, Ricardo Mayorga just went out there and was like, I'm not going to let you take that moment away from me. I'm going to fight for it.
Definite round for Vernon Forrest, I believe, in the second round. So look at the first round was 10-8 in favor of Mayorga. And then we had round two, which I believe Forrest established control. But you could see right now in round three here that Mayorga is now establishing his control with, again, the free swinging, the trying to bully and beat up.
And that's it. It is done. It is over. And you got that face right now. Vernon Forrest is like,
What's up, fuckers?
He doesn't know what's going on. Can you name some other fighters like Mayorga that could sell fights but aren't expected to win at the A level boxing version of the pro wrestling? What is that? Jabroni?
Okay, so I mean,
I'll post
people
that up again really quick.
Fights like Mayorga. Yeah, I'm looking at the comment right now as we're watching the conclusion of this fight here, and all the credit to Mayorga. That was a sensational knockout. And I just want to say real quick before I go to the question, is that came out of nowhere, in my opinion. When I was watching it live, I was watching it with my father.
Yep.
As I watched a lot of boxing with, and I was very surprised. And then, guys, now I'll give you a spoiler. It goes on to a sequel fight in which, goes 12 rounds. And if someone had ever told me Mayorga would win a unanimous decision in 12 rounds, I'd be like, nah, man, you're crazy. That ain't gonna happen.
But he did.
So
it.
I said, but
and
he did.
It was the best version of him, and as a welterweight.
Yes, and he did.
Yeah,
and he did.
Left that, and JC Lama. Yeah, you're right. The only other fighter that I knew that could sell a fight like that was even close. Oh man, I mean, there's a few.
James Toney was really good.
James Toney, but I mean, there was a lot of fights you thought that I would say I knew that he was going to win the fight.
True.
So he's saying what he's saying is he's asking is name another fighter that you knew was going to lose against an A-level guy. Fernando Vargas.
That's a good one.
Fernando Vargas was one of them. Adrian Broner. Regardless of what people think of him, he was able to pack the seats. People still bought the fight because they got tired of his mouth.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Hector Camacho Sr. is another guy. Talked a lot of trash, but every time he stepped up to that A level, we knew he wasn't going to win that fight. But it was the whole thing with me. With Hector Camacho with me was this was a guy that was never knocked out, never put out. Was beaten, but never put out. Fernando Vargas was always knocked out, no matter what.
It's because he fought hard, and that's what happens. That's that gamble I was talking about, even with Mayorga. Yep. When you fight hard, you play fire with fire. You're taking a gamble, and that's why I appreciate guys like Vargas.
Even with Cheeto and Oscar De La Hoya, he just couldn't pull it off. He just couldn't take that. He couldn't do the Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley on the second fight when Oscar De La Hoya was on something as well. But he was successful. He lost that fight, but the judge gave it to him. Fernando Vargas was trying to follow that roadmap and just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's funny, to each their own with everything, especially point of views. But I will say this about Fernando Vargas is that he's one of those guys I always admired, and I met him out here in Vegas, a couple times. Very, very good dude. And he fought fire with fire. I keep saying it over and over again. And that's what happens. You're gambling. You might win money. You might lose money. But it's going to be exciting while it happens, and that's Fernando Vargas. That's the type of fighter he was.
And, Ricardo Mayorga, honestly, I got to agree with you, Johnny. After this fight, and then hearing the rematch, I thought for sure Vernon Forrest was going to make adjustments and go out there. But you know what? They always say there's a fighter out there with your number. You just can't beat. Oscar couldn't beat Shane. Shane couldn't beat Forrest, and Forrest couldn't beat Mayorga. It just couldn't happen. And Mayorga couldn't beat Shane. Couldn't beat him.
When I sat ringside for Forrest versus Mosley, and again I was chilling with my dad. That's my boxing brother, And we were watching the fight at Madison Square Garden, and I saw Shane go down hard. I believe it was in the second round against Forrest. I was like, "Damn, dude, this is crazy." But styles makes fights.
Headbutts.
It's weird how it works.
Those headbutts were hellacious. Zab Judah, that's another one. I don't know.
Yeah, Zab Judah was good. But I think at one point in time, Zab, even going into the Costa Zoo fight, I thought Zab was going to win.
I thought Zab was going to win. And that's the thing, I mean, other fighters. I mean, but, I think after Zab's career, we kind of saw Zab was just really – he was spiraling down, man. His lifestyle wasn't really helping him out. And I don't know, you know what, dude, I got to be honest. I was a huge Zab Judah fan in the beginning, but after the whole Costa Zoo thing, it just did it for me. I was just like, fuck, man. He ended up fighting like Paul Imanaji later, Amir Khan. I think Miguel Cotto probably took out as much out of Zab that was left of prime that was left in him. It was a great fight when he fought Miguel Cotto. But I think after that, it was just all downhill for Zab, because if Zab didn't get his way, he just kind of he was like an Adrian Broner, whined that he didn't win or I won and, this guy didn't beat me and blah, blah, blah,
There was one point in time too where Zab Judah's speed and his athleticism was put on display when he fought Floyd Mayweather, like for 6 rounds.
6 rounds, he was taking it to him.
Yeah, man.
6
He
rounds,
was quick.
bro.
I think he dropped Floyd too. I think
The ropes hold up Floyd when he caught him with that straight left. Bam. You know what I mean? That was the one thing about Zab is that when he was in his prime, you know, I mean, that guy's speed was just undeniable. You know,
unbelievable.
You imagine at 140, him and Manny Pacquiao, if they would have fought, dude.
It would have been like a Jedi duel.
Oh my!
It would have just been so fast and just furious because Zab Judah's speed, and the problem with him was the stamina. You know, that was the problem with Zab.
He was a 4-rounder. After
but he'll give you hell for 4 rounds.
Yeah, but you had to get past those 4 rounds. You know, I think Pacquiao would have, you know, eventually would have knocked him out like in the 8th or 9th round because that speed stayed with Pacquiao all the way through to 12 rounds. Where Zab was more of he had speed, but it was at burst. You know what I mean? It was just quick seconds, and then he was done, and he had to like reset, kind of like he was like a freaking the fight night. You know what I mean? You throw the heavy load, and then you had to just refill up your bar slow.
I got stories real quick before we throw up the next fight, guys.
Yeah.
We got Joel Diaz Jr. coming up against Guy Robb, and this was a great fight going back. I believe, what was it, 2012? This fight was from at featherweight. We're going to talk about this. This one is another barn burner and a lot of fun. And again, no spoilers.
Great fight. 8 rounds of
8 rounds. Yep. So here's what's going on in my fight night world. Okay.
Go ahead.
I started at 2-0 with 2 KOs. Now I am 2-20. Okay. Jesus. And I say this with the F-bomb because I cannot win a goddamn round at this point. These kids are kicking my ass. Johnny Sig has no intestinal fortitude.
You know what it is?
No heart.
You know what it is? Is that you're actually trying to use strategic moves in there. You're actually using it as you're actually believing you're in a real fucking boxing match. And these kids are just like doing whatever. Like, you know, I watched my son. I played my son. I told you, right? I made up my whole profile, right? Bro, I'm kicking Roy Jones' ass. I'm kicking Winky Wright. I'm knocking out Fernando Vargas. I'm knocking this dude out. I even got brave enough to go to Holyfield. I went 10 rounds of Holyfield, whooped his ass, right? Then my kid gets in, picks. I can't even remember who he picked. I think, Carlos Monzon. Was it Carlos Monzon? I think it was. It was knocks me out in the 2nd round. I was like, what the
man.
Dude, and then like I'm at 95, right? I'm rated 95. You know when you have you adjust your speed and all that. I'm 95. He's what? Carlo Monzon is like 88, which is really weird because this guy had the next before Bernard Hopkins broke the record, which really it's disputable with Carlo Monzon. I mean, he should have been way higher, way higher.
I'm not gonna lie. You are exactly correct. Is that I'm using strategy. And I even tell anyone that will listen, I'm like, these kids probably don't even know who half of these fighters are.
No.
But they're kicking the shit out of me. And I made my guy, and I'm out there trying to do like the leaderboard tournaments and all this kind of stuff. And I start off really good because I'm out, like my strategy's better than them. But like I said, for whatever reason, my guy's got no chin, no heart. I'm trying to build him up now.
Right.
But dude, I've lost like 17 fights in a row, and it's really sad, and it makes me very upset.
You are the Mayorga and Zab Judah, Fernando Vargas, Fight Night champions here, my friend.
And that's a compliment. That's a compliment.
And you see Vernon Forrest, man. I felt bad for him, dude. He was really stunned. And this is when he knew, was like, dude, like, how do I even redeem myself? How do I explain this to my fans? I just lost to a guy that indefinitely. I can't remember. I don't know if anybody else that you guys can tell us what was the odds in Vegas for this fight. I know that he was up there. I don't think anybody
6-1. 6-1.
Wow. See, Jesus.
Yeah. Originally, the line came in at 10. It was 10-1, and then it came down to 6-1. Vegas, people know things out here, man, and It's funny how that works, but it came down as close to 6-1, but it's still a big upset.
Yeah, I mean, they should have known. I mean, I absolutely knew with that ring walk performance. If this meme was around, this is what would have been played in those times. Hearing Vernon Forrest when he was coming out on that ring walk.
So I'm getting a comment right now in the chat about sounds like Johnny Sig built Glass Joe. Absolutely. I got to go back to the drawing board. My guy is getting wrecked. It's so depressing. I tell my girlfriend at night before I go to bed, I'm like, yo, my guy has no chin, no intestinal fortitude. Like, resolve.
Hey Johnny, we all know that when you're playing the joystick, which is like this, right? You're like this, dude. You can't play. I hope you know you can't play with your pinky up in the air. You know.
That's what I'm throwing up right now. Yeah.
You need all your
I'm
fingers,
throwing that
bro.
pinky up in the screen.
You need your, and that's gonna be your Joe, Glass Joe's, Glass Joe, no, Glass Johnny Zig.
Absolutely. And you know what? I have to pay attention to make sure I'm not doing that because chances are I am because I'm very extra. I'm very extra.
Oh, that's great. All right, man. Let's go to our next fight here, which is let's bring it up.
We got Joel Diaz Jr. Against Guy Robb, and these guys were both unbeaten fighters at this point in time.
Yeah, dude. And you know what? Let me tell you this. When this fight was announced, I remember managers that were not managing these guys, but managers and matchmakers, they, in the beginning, because I was being told this fight was going to happen, and I was like, what? Like, these two guys undefeated? I mean, these guys were power hitters. Everybody's like, dude, this is going to be a freaking bomb burner. Big time. So I guess what? If you guys watch closely, you'll see me ringside taking pictures. I was there taking pictures of this fight, covered him, and the main event was
this was a ShowBox card
versus
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Rigondeaux.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was a ShowBox card, and during this fight we had Andre Ward on the call, and I'm going back in time here. This is 2012.
This was when Andre was testing the waters as the commentator.
Yeah, you're taking me back with this one, brother.
Yeah, dude.
Undefeated fighters. I think Joel Diaz was 19 years old at the time, maybe 6-0.
19 years old, and Rob was older. Rob was what, 21, 22?
Right, and at 7-0, both unbeaten. We have a very dynamic fight here.
These
a lot of
guys telling us right now in the chat room that Dan Rafael got fired from ESPN. I don't know, bro.
What did he do? Let us know, D-Style. Let us know what's up, bro.
He probably went into a buffet. He wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be closed. He broke in. He said, fuck it. I'm going in. I'm going in, fellas. I'm going in, fellas.
I miss buffets, man. We got some of the best buffets out here in Vegas. All you could eat crab legs, bro. I used to smash those things. And one time I actually called a buffet eatery, and I said, you guys have all you can eat crab legs? And the woman on the phone said, if all you're going to do is eat the crab legs, don't come over here. And she hung up on me, cold as ice.
I can see Dan, breaking through when they're telling them they're closed because of the coronavirus. He's saying,
get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
Get out of here.
Make me fall off my chair here, guys. Come on.
He gets caught. He gets caught with a mouthful of crab legs and a big bowl of meatballs.
You guys are going to make me fall off my chair.
Oh, poor Dan. D-Style here just said reports nothing concrete yet. Just seen reports. I don't know, man. Obviously, that'd be very surprising. That'd be surprising. I guess they're doing cutbacks.
Who knows, man? I was going to say cutbacks are happening right now, and the world's crazy. And at one point in time, I said that, day to day it's different. Now it's hour to hour and minute to minute, man. Like, who knows?
I just could picture it in my mind. Him just coming out, with a big old bowl of meatballs, mouth stuffed up, and then you hear that song from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Bow, bow, bow.
I could just hear that. Jesus.
All right, so we're going to dial it back into boxing, but that is absolutely incredible. You know, with Dan Rafael, who knows what happened there? And I will say one thing. Exactly. It ain't my money. It's not making my money funny. I don't give a fuck.
D-Style, you're absolutely right, bro. He was not a very kind person at all to a lot of media folks, man. He just wasn't. Not a really nice guy. You know, I got nothing against him. I just, I agree with everybody else. He was a dick. But you know what they say, though, Johnny? It takes a dick to know a dick. And you, my friend, are a dick. Well, here we go, Guy Robb. Repo Rick was there. And the Guy Robb was trained by Ray Woods out of Sacramento. Really good dude. Who is the stepfather and original trainer of the late Diego Corrales. Chico. Who they just aired the Chico versus Corrales versus Jose Luis Castillo 1 and 2 just yesterday on Showtime.
Is that the greatest fight ever? I think it is. Bro. We could talk about that in a moment. Yeah.
There's no denying that. You can't deny that. You know what I mean?
Might be one of the greatest fights of all time. I got a story about that after this one too that is really, really funny. And but we're looking at this one right now. I will share this one with you. I will share this one with you.
And here we go. First round between these young featherweights, undefeated.
Yep.
It's scheduled for 8 rounds, and immediately, man, you knew that you were going to have something special. Everybody that was there at the ring, everybody knew this is going to be just good. This is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This is what ShowBox was all about in its prime, in its heyday. Unbeaten fighters facing each other, putting all the stakes on the line, and these kids certainly delivered what I think is a trademark example of ShowBox.
Yep. And like I said, if you look closely, I'm there, right there, just taking pictures, man. And this is one of the best fights that I was able to attend to in Las Vegas. At the Palms, Las Vegas. I stayed at the Hard Rock, dude, and I gotta tell you this, I was completely, no, not the Hard Rock, the Hooters Casino Hotel, completely disappointed, bro.
Oh, you did it wrong.
It was a freaking rundown.
You don't stay at Hooters in Vegas, bro. You did it wrong.
Well,
especially
it was cheap,
for
so that's why I went. I was like, oh shit, Hooters?
Everything's cheap. Everything's cheap in Vegas, though. Like, the bottom line is before all this quarantine thing changed the world with the coronavirus, like, I remember that at one point in time, I was in a long distance relationship with my girlfriend before I moved out here to Vegas to be with her, that it was actually cheaper for me to come to Vegas than it would be for her and I to go to Atlantic City for an entire day. I could come to Vegas for a week.
Oh, wow.
Rooms are especially during a week in Vegas is cheap.
Right. Well, that weekend it wasn't. There was like big events happening, if I remember correct.
Well, that'll kill you. Yeah, that'll kill you.
Well, and here's another thing: when you're covering events and you're a small media outlet, you don't know if they're going to give you credentials until the week of the fight, so you can't reserve anything. So you basically you have to get whatever is available, which is going to be a day or two out of the fight happening. So that was the only thing that was cheap enough for me to pick up and reserve, get a reservation for. And here we go, man. I mean, telling you, these guys were just going at it.
I was going to say
There's
the way
no
they're
fill-out round between these two guys.
The torque, the torque behind the hips, the way they're pivoting their shots.
Yep.
We saw it right there. Great example. Right hands for days. Like, these guys really came in with a lot of intensity.
And Lama said he was there. His first fight live was in tennis for the Corrales Castillo 1. Dude, phenomenal, bro. I bet you that experience was just like out of this world, because I had just moved to Modesto. I bought my house in Modesto 2005, and that was a great, because I'm a Cinco de Mayo baby. I was born on May 5th. So, and I remember, like, there was a lot of folks that were like, oh, that's not going to be a good fight. These two dudes are washed up. And I was like, no, this is going to be a good fight. A lot of people don't get sometimes that you don't have to have guys with that don't have a record blemished yet, or top tier guys at the moment, that are like, because everybody believes that two very recognizable names are going to give you the best fights available, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way. It's these two guys that have nothing to lose that go out there and they leave their heart and their soul in that ring. And that night, man, that's what we got. That's why this fight here was really special between these two young cats, because these were two young dudes that had a lot on the line. They didn't have to face each other.
Oh, absolutely.
But these were warriors. These guys were like, no, we're going to fight each other, and we're going to find out who's got the bigger cojones.
We were going to get something similar before all this happened with Joe Joyce at heavyweight and Daniel Dubois, which I thought would have been really fun. I believe that's
that's good.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not going to say it's going to be similar to something like this. I think Dubois just blows him out of the water. Joe Joyce, because Joe Joyce, I swear to you, man,
slow,
dude.
too slow.
I thought my internet was slow the last time he fought. I was like, what?
You could see that coming a mile away, literally.
Yeah, dude.
So in round one there, I had Joel Diaz taking the round 10-9. What did you think about that round, David? Did you have Joel Diaz winning that round?
I did. I thought that, Guy Robb was a little bit confused. I didn't think Guy Robb. Guy Robb was a guy that was used to blowing out guys in sparring, a very big hitter. And right there is when he realized, you know what? This is a different type of creature that I'm facing right now.
Oh, absolutely. And you could see, because of the nature of their body language in which they're exchanging here at the start of the second round is furious. And you only fight that way if you feel like you have to defend yourself. These guys are trying to defend themselves, but with aggression.
I agree with you, Lamas, and that's what I mean. A lot of there, and then I'm sorry, really quick. This gets dropped, and it was because of the pressure of Guy Robb. And like I said, Guy Robb was very, very heavy-handed, very, very heavy-handed. But going back, Corrales had just beat Freitas, and it was the 10th round. It was a stoppage. But I'm telling you, when you lose to somebody, fight fans for some reason, the casuals just write you off. They just think that, okay, you're damaged goods. Jose Luis Castillo cleaned out the division, but they looked at his record and like, oh, this guy can't be that good. Then on top of it, he's on Showtime. It's Showtime. There was this stigma about Showtime for some reason. People thought that was like a lower level of competition. It wasn't. If you really think about it, Showtime gave us like Marquez Velasquez 1 and 2 and 3, even 4. Jose Luis Castillo, Corrales. They gave us some great fights. Joe Calzaghe versus Lacey, Donier versus Vic Darchinyan, and here they go, man. I mean, you don't even have to commentate on a fight like this between these two guys. They're speaking for themselves right here. It's like, here, take this, take that. Okay, you take this, you take that.
No, it's an absolute war, and I totally agree with what you're saying about boxing records being overanalyzed and people being too rough on fighters. A loss isn't everything, man. Like, you could rebound from a loss. You learn in life, and as long as you don't take too much damage, you could assess yourself and go back out there, go back to the drawing board and do tremendous things.
Dude,
like,
some
even
of the
before
great fights in the 90s, think about this. Barrera versus Morales. Okay.
Great example. Example.
Arturo Gotti versus Mickey Ward.
Great example. Holyfield Bowe.
Yep. I mean, these
Holyfield
guys
Bowe
have
1 to Part
blemishes
2.
on their records. Barrera versus Hamed. These guys, Barrera had a blemished record. They produced some of the best fights because sometimes they got to reprove themselves or they got nothing left. What do we have to lose? Let's go out there and give up a great performance. These two guys, what made it special about these two guys right now, because they had a lot on the line.
Oh, there's no doubt. And they're so young in their careers and being willing to challenge each other. I got to give them mad props for that in itself. That doesn't really happen nowadays or just in general. And if you look at the history of boxing, And these guys are at a very high skill level. You can see it. This is why this fight's so competitive.
Right.
So at the end of this round here, I gave that, obviously it's going to be a 10-8
for Guy Robb.
Yep, for Guy Robb. And what a great way to make a statement back after losing a round. And
this is when Joel Diaz Jr., man, just started letting that right hand go. And he actually picked up Guy Robb. If you go back and you watch this a few seconds back, he lifted up Guy Robb. His legs literally lift up. And I knew right there, I was like, okay, Guy Robb may go down. And he did the smart thing by going down.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And that's a hard shot that was landed. And we see starting this round right now that they're continuing just right where they left off with just hard punches. Look at this.
Whatever happened to Guy Robb? You know what? I went to go visit him. I think it was a year after this fight. And Ray Woods and him, I got to witness some spar, which if I can figure out, because I got the little small disc still, if I can figure out how to download it, I'll post it. It was a great sparring. I mean, this guy, the way he fights in the ring is the way he fights in sparring. He reminded me a lot. I'm going to tell you the truth. He reminded me a lot of Antonio Margarito. What's the other kid's name? Giovanni Segura. That's what they reminded me a lot. Just there is no holding back. There's no 60, 70%. They went 80 to 100%. They were there to really hurt and damage their sparring partners. But when I was there, they were telling me management was really bad. They just couldn't really find a home where they can plant their feet. And here's right now, Joel Diaz, man, just letting his hands go with Guy Robb. And I think that's when Guy Robb told me, because I asked him, what was going through your head? And he gets dropped again. And he was honest with me. He was like, you know what? I just fought the wrong fight. You know, I thought I was going to muscle over him. I thought I was just going to put more damage on him. I didn't think that he was going to be that strong. If you look at him at Joel Diaz Jr., he's like, he doesn't look that strong. I didn't think he was going to have that man strength, and he did.
Guy Robb went on to answer the question too as well. I'll add my 2 cents to it. He went on to win 11 fights in a row after this and stop some people.
Yeah.
Retired in 2016. Fights like this, guys, when you see a fight like this, no matter who the winner is, this takes a lot out of a kid.
Well,
I mean,
think about this. Joel Diaz Jr., too, didn't really do much after this. You know, he got some good wins, but really, honestly, fights like this, and this is what I always talked about, kids that are on a big hurry come up. There shouldn't be no rush. And you could see that both of these guys left a bit of part of them in that ring. I mean, come on. I mean, we're on what? This is going to go on to the 4th round. And look how hard these guys have been dishing it out.
These are the types of fights that change people. There's no doubt about it. And if these kids, you know, they lived fast and you know, I'm not going to say died young here because luckily they're both alive and well. But the expression, if you get my drift, like they went really hard, and to have this type of fight, and we don't know if they had sparring prior to this that was like this, you know, individually against other people, because I think that's where a lot of people, you know, get messed up. And these guys went to war. They did well after this fight, respectively, both in their careers, decently enough. But I think this fight might have taken a little piece out of them, bro.
Right.
This is a
and
tough
Guy
fight.
Robb, man, good for him. You know, he has a family. And he moved on from boxing. I've seen on Facebook, you know, he's doing very well. He's got his kids, you know, his wife and everybody. He's doing good. He's doing good for himself. It's not like it's not a tragic story, you know, because this kid, he grew up hard, you know, he grew up on the streets. And boxing saved him. And he'll tell you that. Boxing saved me.
I love that story about fighters, and when it does save people, you know, that's why I'm a big enthusiast of boxing, because, you know, it gives people something to do. It's a positive sport, man. It's, you know, competitors, like I've met a lot of people in this industry, and they're usually very down to earth and very cool. And at the end of the day, it gets people, like you said, David, off the streets. it gets them, doing something and earning money and income in an honest way for their family.
And here comes Guy Robb, man. I mean, dude, you want to talk about heart between these two guys? There is the measuring between the two in heart has got to be equal. Guy Robb got dropped twice, and here he is again in the face of Joel Diaz Jr. He's right there, man. He's not giving up any inches. He's not giving any breathing room. Where you would think he would want to maybe box, regain himself, but he is definitely that stubborn drunk that's saying, "One more beer. Give me one more beer."
It's a Mortal Kombat like mirror match here. That's happening. It's like Sub-Zero versus Sub-Zero.
You know what he reminds me of? Oh, dude, I just thought. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of that guy, Glass Johnny Zig, who's got like 2 wins and 20 knockouts, but he doesn't give up. He keeps coming.
No, man. We're going to keep coming at you, dude. I'm telling you. And I interviewed Ronald Ellis the other day.
These kids that are sitting around, they go, "Hey, dude, Johnny Zig's on. You guys want a couple of wins?"
I interviewed Ronald Ellis the other day.
This poor bastard's back for another ass whooping. Jesus,
and he wants
to get it.
He wants some of that smoke. My man Ronald Ellis wants some of that smoke. And I told him, I said, dude, I'm nice on the radio, but when I get online, I talk shit, bro. Like, I put that headset on. I'm like a keyboard warrior. And meanwhile, this fight again, we're talking about getting that smoke. I mean, these guys just lighting it up, man. They're lighting it up.
This is the straight up seesaw battle. It's just back and forth, nonstop. And like I said, everybody knew this was going to be a good fight, but this turned out to be a great, great fight. Everybody there. I even forgot that I was taking pictures for my website at that time. That I literally was watching the fight just like this, with the camera to my chest, just watching the fight. I was consumed of just being a viewer. That was it. I didn't care about covering it. People went wild when they found out Floyd Mayweather was up on the up tier. And I just was every person that was media was there, just more like we are witnessing some hellish rounds between these two kids right now.
It's one of those fights that remind me of like when I used to go to the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia, and watch fights back in the day. Yeah, brother.
Look at that, dude.
I know that was a nasty one, but yeah, it just got that vibe to it. And sometimes I've done things as media, or sometimes I've just done things as a fan, and you just get so lost in a great fight where it's just like, man, this is just so compelling. And it's a metaphor for life. And this is what I tell everybody. We're all in a fight right now, and this is going to sound corny, but watch things like this to inspire you to continue on and persevere, because that's where we're at right now, man. Trying to get through. And this is why we love watching these fights with you all, because, it's really inspiring stuff when you see people give themselves like this to sports. Oh, man.
And right here, this is where, this is just Guy Robb trying to land something big to get Joel Diaz off of him. And, minor success. And good for him, because, Joel Diaz did. Dude, see, this was the thing. It's like people remember Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward, which was like back and forth. One guy took the lead and the other guy took over the back cage. And you know what I mean? It just was going back. This fight is so similar in that way, but these were prospects.
Right, and it's relentless.
At the highest level. At the highest level. Guy Robb was never going to be no Zab Judah or no pure boxer, and neither was Joel Diaz Jr. These guys were going to probably go on, if they had continued in the career, had the right management, right team, they would have gone on and they were going to make an impact in the sport. But they were never going to be, in my opinion, just not that household name. They were not going to be the takeover.
They fight way too hard. They're going to burn out fast if you fight like this.
I mean, Joel Diaz was being compared to a young Brandon Ruiz. And if he was being compared to a young Brandon Ruiz, we knew, because everybody knew Brandon Ruiz fought with his heart on his sleeve, and that's a recipe for a short-term career.
You mentioned Arturo Gatti too. It's funny because he lasted a lot longer than a lot of people, including myself, thought he would, considering the amount of punishment he took.
Right.
Like, even though he had favorable nights, like where he really did good and looked excellent, and then he had nights where he didn't look so great and he burned out, but he hung in there and he went a lot further than I thought he would.
Look, you want to talk about management. They knew what they had in front of them. They knew that this guy needed the right opponents. Okay? He was phenomenal against C-level and B-level opponents. Could blow him out of there. It was when he hit that A level. He never could get over that hump. So, main events, they knew that. Let's be honest here. Main events is not, we want to talk about like the Goose and Tutors and main event folks. They knew their product. And Arturo Gatti was a name. And they built their product off of knocking out B-level guys or C-level guys. Right?
There's no doubt they knew their market, especially on the East Coast and Jersey, where
right.
I'm from, man. When Arturo Gatti fought, that was an event, and people that didn't even really follow boxing were all about it. They were all in and invested. We had rows, bro.
That's my wife's favorite fighter, Arturo Gatti. She's not even a fight fan. We just started dating. I showed her a couple of fights of Arturo Gatti. And she was sold just like that. Anytime Arturo fought, she wanted to be there and watch him. It wasn't Oscar De La Hoya. It wasn't, any other fighter that made her have any interest in watching the sport of boxing. It was blood and guts Arturo Gatti. That was her favorite fighter. Her second favorite fighter was Johnny Tapia. I started showing her Johnny Tapia. Fell in love with Johnny Tapia's personality.
Absolutely.
And how electric he was in that ring,
It's funny you said that, electrifying, and I've had the privilege to talk to Teresa, his ex, obviously, the widow of Johnny, and real quick about Arturo Gatti, and I'll move on to Johnny Tapia real quick, is that with Arturo Gatti, it wasn't just like you went to the fight with a couple of friends. Like, you got a whole row.
Oh, yeah.
You got a whole... Like, everyone in New Jersey, it was like 20 deep, taking up a whole section.
Oh, I
bet.
bet.
Teresa is so wonderful. And, when you think about Johnny Tapia, just electrifying, like you said, that's the key word, is that he's just had this personality, man, this electrifying. Like, whenever you heard him, he just shared so much, and he was so open, and he was so honest. And this fight right here, talk about open and honest. Man, these guys are not holding back.
That is a great way of describing it, man. I mean, look, both guys, you got to admit, they were chipping away. And
there's no doubt.
Look at that. I mean, body to the head, both men are doing it. They're not missing any part of the body right now. They're not missing it. They're covering every part of that body. They're making sure they're covering every part of canvas of your body. They're touching it.
Yeah, we had multiple knockdowns already, guys. My scorecard after we're going into, I believe this is the 6th round right now. So yes. My first round I gave to Diaz, and then, Guy Robb took it with the knockdown in round 2, 10-8. And then Diaz answers back with sending Guy down twice in round 3. So we're looking at 10-7 on my scorecard. We go to round 4. I gave it to Diaz, 10-9. And then, again, the ebb and flow continues. We have Guy Robb, I think, winning the 5th round. 10-9.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And now we're going into round 6.
In the 6th round, honestly, they're just going so back and forth that really it's going to be left up to the last 20 seconds of that round to see who's winning it, because both guys have had great moments within 2 minutes of the 6th round. It's really difficult to say who's had control. Right now, you got Diaz backing up, but just a minute ago, you had Guy Robb backing up.
Yeah, that's the thing about this fight, is that they keep going back and forth with their position and just firepower and will. This is now just a battle of wills, man. Like, when you get into a type of fight like this, and I don't know anything about it, but I'm just talking about what I think I see and what I think I could know about something like this. These guys are just going.
Well, you're a veteran fight night champion, bro. So,
I do know about that, but then my guy's a bitch. So my guy sucks. He's got no fucking balls. Johnny Sig is a mess. If you want to come take me out on fight night, just type in John Signorella.
Johnny Z's when he logs on, he really lost 2 fights before he even press start.
If you need a couple extra wins, I'll give you a couple on the house because you'll probably kick my ass because I'm terrible.
You're Box Rex's dream. You're a matchmaker's dream. They're like, shit, man. I wish this guy was real.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, I'll take any fight. I'll talk shit. I go on the leaderboard. I was talking shit to like the guy that's running the game, and I'm like, meaning like the guy that's champion.
Do you start talking shit like Johnny Zig, or do you start bringing out the Italian in you?
The Italian comes out big time. And I go after like the number 1 like ranked person. I'm like, yo, I'm ready anytime, bro. Let me know.
Bro.
Come see me. I'm always like, come see me. Come see me. So we got this.
So let me ask you this: what Italian mob accent do you end up using? Is it the Sopranos, Goodfellas?
I think I'm more Paulie Walnuts from Sopranos.
Paulie Walnuts, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm more like that. I usually do this over here now, you know. Maybe it's also a little Tony Soprano. It's like a hybrid.
Oh shit! Funny how, huh? Funny how?
Like maybe a little Joe Pesci.
These kids in the background, they're like, "This guy really fucking sucks. He's funny. Funny how, huh? Funny like I fucking amuse you."
So we're going in. Speaking of amusing, we're going into the 7th round of a absolute war, and I got Diaz winning that 6th round 10-9. What do you got, buddy?
I got Diaz winning. I mean, I thought that, he's you got to give him that 2. When Rob got dropped twice, you got to give him 7. It's 7-10. So right now this is desperation for Rob, and I think they knew it. If I remember, my memory serves me right, and it never does. Ray Woods, because I was closer. If I believe, I was closer to Guy Rob's. No, was I closer to? Yeah, I think I was closer to Guy Rob's corner, or I think the guy that was next to me told me that they were telling him you need to pick it up, you need to knock him out because it was on the 7th round. And you could see Guy Rob's coming out there, dude, and he's just landing some big shots. But, Joel Diaz Jr., he's not letting up. And
no,
you have to admit, Diaz Jr. looked stronger.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I think that was evident when we saw in the 2nd round, rather 3rd round, where he put Guy Rob down twice and powerfully so. Like, and again, the twerk behind, like the way he's just turning, like over on his shots.
Right. I just did the cardinal the rule that we're not supposed to get up and grab another beer during the fight. But I'm sorry, guys, I was getting thirsty. I had to do it.
Got to do what you got to do to get through, bro. That's what I tell everyone during this time. We got to do what we got to do. Just be responsible and wash your fucking hands and be safe and positive.
You know what's crazy? Like playing video games, it does bring out a different beast in you. And
oh, bro,
yeah, dude. I mean, you never know. Like, do you have? I don't have road rage. I'm not one of those guys that get all crazy and all that. I'm just kind of like, fuck it. And they stopped it. Which I thought it was a great call. Vic Draculin decided to step in and say, wave it off. It was a good call. I don't think Guy Rod was going to win this fight. I thought anything, it was just going to take more. It was already you were already witnessing. It was taking a huge piece out of him. So it was a good call. Disappointing win, especially from Sacramento. Being that I'm from the Bay Area. You always want to see your Northern California foreign fighters win and stuff, but I thought it was a great call.
I think it was a good stoppage. It was a hell of a fight. Those guys were going back and forth. It looked like in the last couple rounds in particular, I'm going to say from 3 to 6, that Diaz had won, what was it, maybe 3 of those rounds. Like, I'm going to say he won 3, 4, and 6. It was looking good for him. He scored a couple knockdowns. He was hurting this kid. And I think the right decision was made because these guys both went on to have somewhat decent careers. And like I had mentioned before with Guy Robb, like he was able to put a couple of wins in a row together. If they let a fight like that go, maybe he never has that opportunity to make money, and maybe he doesn't do well in those fights.
Yeah, like I honestly, truly believe that both young men at that time, both they were very young. I think they really did leave a piece of themselves in that ring that night. You know, I mean, you watch this 7 rounds, and this was just hellacious. Both guys had their moments. Both guys seized their moments. There's no question in my mind that both these men, young men, they went out there and they were looking for the win. They both believed I am the big punch. I am the power puncher. This is my moment. You could see it. They didn't give edge to anything. Think about it. They responded to each other perfect. They were the yin and yang. One guy decided to throw a right hand, the other guy decided to throw a right hand. One guy decided to go to the body, the other guy threw the body. I guarantee if one guy decided to knee one guy in the nuts, the other guy would have kneed him in the nuts because they were that in sync with each other of what they had planned for themselves and what they were going to do that night. Both guys believed they were going to walk away with a victory. Both men believed that you signed and you signing up to this fight was that moment.
Oh, it was a fight. There's no doubt about it. Like you said it right there brilliantly, that they were going to go back and forth and nonstop. Like you hit me in my nuts, I'm going to hit you in your nuts. You want to choke me, I'm going to choke you. It was just a real fight. But the great part about it is that it was fought at a very high skill level. And I want to say this about this fight. Like when you see like barn burners and stuff of that nature, like sometimes you don't see the highest skill level. But these guys fought really considerably well and tried their best. But it was just a high contact, high volume fight, which I think was remarkable for both those kids. And okay,
and I was covering a lot of fights at that time. I was going to gyms, dude, religiously. Awesome. And this is really one of the fights that are on the list for me of witnessing live, being right there. I knew that, like I said, we all knew there was going to be a good fight, but we didn't know it was going to be this great of a fight.
No, you know what? And the thing is, it was reminiscent when watching this with you right now. Old school Showbox, Boxing After Dark on HBO back in the day. Remember some of those wonderful, incredible wars we got? Like just ridiculous. Whenever you tuned in, you knew you were going to get something. And then unfortunately, like a lot of times nowadays, we oversaturate the market. And I loved where boxing was going in 2019 and 2020 as well before all this bullshit happened. But it's like those were very special. Like when Showbox was on, like, oh, yes, Friday, Showbox, even ESPN, Friday Night Fights. And they going way back. I'm going to show you my age here, guys. Tuesday Night Fights on USA. Right. Yeah, like that because you knew you were going to see something ridiculous and something amazing. And whether the skill quality and the opponent level wasn't like, it wasn't a household name, you were going to get a fight. And that's what we got here. So I'm going to mention 2 things, if you don't mind. I'm going to talk about Fight Night back in the day, 2010, okay? I'm playing Fight Night. I finally get the #1 leaderboard champion. I talk so much shit for so long because I told you that's what I do. I talk shit online, and I tell everyone that. So I finally get this guy to fight me. I beat his ass in the first round, right? Kick his ass, dropping him. I'm like, I'm going to be the #1 leaderboard champion.
You're the Broner. You're the Broner of the leaderboard. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Okay. Yep. Round 2, I come out. My guy's got nothing left. He knocks me out. And the whole time I was wearing a headset similar to this, and I talked shit. I talked shit about his mom.
That's actually not the Broner, though, of the leaderboard then, because Broner would have been knocked out.
I talked so much shit about everything. I told him how, he wasn't worth my time and all this type of stuff.
What?
And he never.
You were going that deep, huh?
I was going deep, bro. I talked about his mom, if he had a sister, whatever. I'm telling you. So the next day, right, he didn't come through my headphones. He wasn't talking. He didn't have his mic on. The next day I go online and he sends me a 4-page email and tells me how much my mom sucks, my life is shit, how bad I am. And I was so butthurt, bro. Like I was like,
He's all, you're all thumbs, buddy. You're all thumbs.
And I didn't play the game for like 3 years after that.
See, if you would have pulled that shit with me, I would have said, you're all thumbs. Dude, what you need to do is take your Xbox outside and burn it. Don't ever again pick up a controller. You suck. Please don't do that. You're embarrassing yourself. That's what I would have done. You know what I mean?
That's pretty much what I got. It's pretty much what I got.
I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Beer, Boxing, and Quarantine. We'll see you guys next week, Sunday. Hit us up on the Leaving the Ring Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or even on our Leaving the Ring Gmail, and let us know what fights you guys want to watch. And some of you guys are lightweights. You guys are not even hanging out with us late this night, I see a bunch of people logging off towards the end of this third fight, which is a great fight. But I hope everybody enjoyed their Easter. But like I said, some of you guys are going to have to start, catching up with us, with me and Johnny Zig here on Leaving the Ring, man. Hey, Johnny.
You got to get your weight up, people. Build that tolerance, man. We're going to be doing this for a while. Let's go.
Exactly. We're all going to be in this quarantine for quite some time and stuff. But again, hey, man, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that little bell there so you're notified when we go on live here on Leaving the Ring. You guys all have a great, great night.
Have a great night, everybody.
Ottoman music.
You're about to tune into Leaving the Ring. All boxing, no filter. You're about to tune into Leaving the Ring. All boxing, no filter.
Ottoman music.